know that they were covered or capped in many cases with electrum, which is a combination of gold and silver.
Hidden away in the National Museum of Iraq sits an unassuming clay jar with a copper cylinder and an iron rod. To casual observers, it might seem like just another ancient artifact. But this object, known as the Baghdad Battery, has perplexed archaeologists for decades. Could our ancestors have harnessed electricity nearly 2,000 years before Alessandro Volta created the first modern battery?
Thousands of years ago, someone had already discovered electricity. Archaeologists found a mysterious jar, one that could change everything we know about human history.
The question lingered as a fascinating but unproven theory until 2025. When a breakthrough research team unveiled startling evidence that rewrites our understanding of ancient technology.
They may have been meant to attract plasma, electrically charged particles.
Using cutting-edge archaeological techniques and advanced chemical analysis, scientists have finally unlocked the secrets of this mysterious device, revealing that the ancients may have had a much more sophisticated grasp of electrical principles than we ever imagined. The implications ripple through our understanding of history, challenging the narrative that electrical knowledge began with the Enlightenment. The story begins in 1936 in the dusty terrain outside Baghdad, where German archaeologist Wilhelm König led an excavation in the remains of a Parthian settlement. Among the pottery shards and everyday items, König uncovered something extraordinary, a 5.5-inch tall clay vessel containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. The copper cylinder was soldered with a lead-tin alloy, and the iron rod appeared to be insulated from the copper by bitumen plugs. König was struck by the peculiar construction, noting how it resembled a galvanic cell, what we now call a battery. Initially, the artifact was estimated to date from around 250 BCE to 224 CE during the Parthian period of Mesopotamia. König published his findings in 1940, suggesting that the device may have been used for electroplating gold onto silver objects. The hypothesis was revolutionary as it implied that ancient Parthians had discovered electricity roughly 1,800 years before modern science had recognized its principles. The Baghdad Battery, as it came to be known, survived wars and looting. During the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the museum was ransacked and many priceless artifacts were stolen. Fortunately, the Baghdad Battery remained safe, stored in a secure location away from the museum. When it returned to public display years later, it continued to spark debate and fascination. Early scholars proposed various alternative uses for the artifact. Some suggested it might have been a vessel for storing sacred scrolls, while others believed it could have been used for medicinal purposes, perhaps to deliver mild electric shocks as a form of pain relief. Still others dismissed the electrical theory entirely, arguing it was simply a storage container. Previous experimental attempts. As word of the Baghdad Battery spread through scientific circles, researchers couldn't resist putting this ancient technology to the test. The first notable attempt came in 1940 when Wilhelm König himself created a replica filled with grape juice, which serves as an acidic electrolyte. To his amazement, the device generated a small voltage of around 0.5 volts. This initial success sparked a wave of experimentation that would continue for decades. In 1978, Dr. Arne Egebrecht, then director of the Roma and Pelaseus Museum in Hildesheim, Germany, conducted perhaps the most famous early experiment. Using replicas of the Baghdad Battery filled with grape juice, Egebrecht claimed to have achieved electroplating of a thin layer of silver with gold. His experiment suggested that multiple batteries connected in series could produce enough voltage for basic metallurgical applications. However, his methodology wasn't thoroughly documented, and later scientists questioned whether the voltage would have been sufficient for practical electroplating. The Baghdad Battery captured the public imagination in 1999 when the BBC's Horizon program featured a segment where a replica successfully lit a small LED lamp. The demonstration was dramatic but somewhat misleading. LEDs require very little current compared to ancient metallurgical processes. Perhaps the most well-known testing came in 2005 when the Mythbusters television show tackled the Baghdad Battery. The team constructed replicas using materials available in ancient Mesopotamia and tested them with various electrolyte solutions including grape juice and vinegar. They managed to generate electricity, and when connecting multiple batteries in series, produced enough voltage to create a small, electroplated layer on a test object. However, they ultimately labeled the practical use of such devices for electroplating as plausible but problematic, due to the difficulty of maintaining consistent current for the hours needed for effective plating. The 2025 Breakthrough Research Team. The turning point came with the formation of an unprecedented interdisciplinary team in late 2023. Leading the research was Dr. Amira Hassan, an Iraqi-American archaeologist specializing in ancient Mesopotamian technology, who had long been fascinated by the Baghdad battery's potential. These artifacts have been hiding in plain sight for decades. She noted at the project's outset, "We've been asking the wrong questions all along." Dr. Hassan partnered with Dr. Wei Chen, a materials scientist from MIT with expertise in ancient metallurgical techniques, and Dr. Elena Koroleva, a chemist specializing in archaeological residue analysis from the University of Cambridge. Rounding out the core team was Dr. Jonathan Kemp, a historian of science who provided crucial context about knowledge transmission in the ancient world. What set this team apart was not just their diverse expertise, but their methodological approach. Previous investigations had typically started with the assumption that the devices were batteries and then attempted to prove that functionality. The 2025 team instead began with no assumptions, applying a full spectrum of modern analytical techniques to let the artifacts speak for themselves. The research received unprecedented support from the Iraqi Ministry of Culture, which granted the team unprecedented access to all known Baghdad battery specimens. This included 5 previously unstudied devices that had been in storage since the 1960s, providing a much broader sample for comparative analysis. Equally important was the team's commitment to open science. They published their methodologies and preliminary findings throughout the research process, allowing global collaboration. This approach attracted additional specialists, including Dr. Fatima Al-Zahawi, an expert in ancient Aramaic and Parthian languages, whose translations of previously overlooked tablets proved crucial to contextualizing the devices. Advanced archaeological techniques. The 2025 team's remarkable discoveries would have been impossible without recent advances in archaeological technology that allowed them to examine the Baghdad batteries in unprecedented detail. At the core of their approach was non-destructive imaging that preserved the artifacts while revealing their secrets. Portable X-ray fluorescence (PXRF) spectroscopy allowed the team to analyze the elemental composition of the artifacts without removing samples. This technology revealed something previous researchers had missed. Trace elements in the copper cylinders showed they had been sourced from specific mines in the Zagros Mountains, suggesting a dedicated supply chain for these components rather than repurposed materials. But the real game changer was the application of neutron tomography, a technique similar to CT scanning but using neutrons instead of X-rays. This allowed researchers to see through the clay exteriors and map the internal components in 3 dimensions without disturbing them. "What we found was extraordinary," explained Dr. Chen. There were subtle design variations between batteries from different periods, showing clear evidence of technological evolution and refinement over centuries. Scanning electron microscopy with the energy dispersive X-ray analysis (SEMEDX) provided microscopic images of surface features while simultaneously identifying chemical elements present. This revealed previously undetected tool marks, suggesting specialized manufacturing techniques specific to these devices. Perhaps most revolutionary was the application of organic residue analysis using gas chromatography mass spectrometry (GCMS). This technique, which has advanced dramatically in sensitivity over the past decade, allowed researchers to identify minute organic compounds preserved within the porous clay walls. The team also employed reflectance transformation imaging (RTI), a computational photographic method that captures surface shape and color, revealing inscriptions and maker's marks that had been invisible to previous researchers. These markings, some as fine as human hair, included symbols associated with specific artisan guilds and, crucially, recurring motifs related to healing and medicine. Environmental DNA analysis, a technique borrowed from paleogenetics, was applied to soil samples from the original excavation sites. This revealed plant DNA traces consistent with specific medicinal herbs mentioned in contemporary Parthian medical texts, creating a crucial link between the batteries and healing practices. Chemical analysis revelations. The most startling revelations came from advanced chemical analysis of residues preserved within the Baghdad batteries. Using mass spectrometry techniques sensitive enough to detect compounds at parts per billion levels, Dr. Koroleva's team identified a complex mixture of organic substances clinging to the interior surfaces. What we found wasn't just a simple acidic electrolyte like vinegar or citrus juice that previous experiments had used, Dr. Koroleva explained. We identified a sophisticated mixture of organic compounds that appears to have been deliberately formulated. The residues contained a complex solution including gallic acid and tannins consistent with oak gall extract, a substance known to have been used in ancient medicine for its astringent properties. More surprising was the presence of alkaloids consistent with extracts from Atropa belladonna, deadly nightshade, and Hyoscyamus niger henbane, plants used historically for their analgesic and anti-inflammatory properties. These compounds were found in specific concentration gradients that couldn't have occurred naturally, suggesting intentional pharmaceutical formulation. X-ray diffraction analysis of crystalline deposits on the iron rods revealed something even more unexpected: traces of zinc and silver compounds. These weren't random contaminants but appeared in consistent patterns across multiple specimens. The team concluded these were likely byproducts of a controlled electrochemical process. Isotope analysis of the metallic components provided another crucial insight. The lead used to solder the copper cylinders had an isotopic signature matching mines in the Taurus Mountains, hundreds of miles from where the copper originated. This suggests a sophisticated trade network specifically supplying materials for these devices. Perhaps most significantly, residue analysis from the ceramic containers showed biomarkers for human blood proteins and inflammation mediators. This was the first direct evidence linking the devices to medical applications, possibly for treating pain or inflammation through low-voltage electrotherapy. The team also discovered minute traces of gold and silver ions embedded in the porous clay walls, a finding consistent with electrolytic migration that occurs during electrical activity. These patterns appeared too regular to be accidental contamination and instead suggested repeated electrical function over extended periods. Chemical dating of organic residues using accelerator mass spectrometry provided more precise dating than ever before, revealing that the technology had been in use for over 400 years, from approximately 100 BCE to 300 CE. This timeline coincided with a period of significant medical advancement in the region, suggesting the batteries evolved alongside healing practices. Functional purpose beyond electroplating. For decades, scholars had focused on electroplating as the primary potential use for the Baghdad battery, but the 2025 findings revealed something far more sophisticated. The breakthrough came when Dr. Hassan connected the chemical findings with overlooked medical papyri from the period. We found Parthian medical texts describing a treatment called the singing metal therapy for conditions that sound remarkably like arthritis and neuropathy, Dr. Hassan explained. The descriptions mention a tingling sensation and relief of pain using devices that match the physical characteristics of the Baghdad batteries. The research team constructed precise replicas using materials matching the original specimens, including the complex electrolyte solution identified in the residue analysis. When tested, these replicas produced a stable current of approximately 0.8 and 1.2 volts, perfect for the mild transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, TNs, used in modern pain management therapy. To test the medical hypothesis, the team collaborated with neurologists to measure the effectiveness of the replicated devices on pain reduction. The results were compelling. The ancient batteries, when used with conductive metal probes, produced electrical stimulation capable of activating the gate control mechanism for pain modulation, essentially the same principle used in modern TENS units. The discovery of specialized conductive applicators at related archaeological sites further supported this theory. These copper and silver implements, previously misidentified as cosmetic tools, had handle designs ergonomically suited for applying electrical stimulation to specific body points that align remarkably well with acupuncture meridians recognized in traditional Chinese medicine. Archaeological evidence also revealed that the batteries were often found in contexts associated with healing temples and medical practitioners' quarters rather than metalworking shops. This spatial distribution strongly suggested medical rather than industrial use. Additionally, the team identified a peculiar pattern in the distribution of these devices. They appeared most frequently in regions affected by major conflicts during the Parthian era. This correlation suggests they may have been developed or refined specifically for treating wounded soldiers, an ancient version of battlefield medicine. The research also uncovered evidence that the batteries were sometimes used in combination with specific medicinal herbs, with the mild electrical current potentially serving to enhance delivery of active compounds through the skin, essentially an ancient form of iontophoresis, a technique rediscovered in modern medicine only in the late 19th century. Cultural context in Parthian Mesopotamia. To truly understand the significance of the Baghdad battery, we must place it within the vibrant cultural landscape of Parthian Mesopotamia. This period, spanning from approximately 247 BCE to 224 CE, represented a remarkable fusion of Persian, Hellenistic, and indigenous Mesopotamian influences that created fertile ground for technological innovation. The Parthian Empire emerged following Alexander the Great's conquests, inheriting scientific knowledge from both Greek and older Mesopotamian traditions. This syncretism was particularly evident in medicine, where Greek humoral theory merged with older Babylonian approaches to healing. The Parthians weren't just preserving knowledge, they were actively synthesizing and advancing it, explained Dr. Kemp. Archaeological evidence suggests that Parthian society placed high value on healing arts. Temples dedicated to Asclepios, Greek, and his Mesopotamian counterpart Ninazu featured prominently in major cities. These healing centers served as ancient hospitals where patients sought relief from chronic conditions, precisely the type of ailments the Baghdad battery appears designed to treat. The religious landscape also provides important context. Zoroastrianism, the dominant faith of the ruling elite, emphasized the healing of both body and soul as sacred duties. Zoroastrian texts from the period mention a practice called metal healing that may correspond to early electrotherapy. Meanwhile, Jewish communities in Mesopotamia preserved their own medical traditions, including references to living metal treatment in Aramaic texts from Babylonian Talmudic academies. Economically, the Parthian Empire controlled crucial sections of the Silk Road, facilitating unprecedented exchange of goods and ideas between East and West. This trade network may explain how concepts similar to acupuncture could have influenced Parthian medical practices, including the application of targeted electrical stimulation. Socially, the period saw the rise of specialized healing practitioners who combined religious authority with practical medical knowledge. The discovery of Baghdad batteries alongside distinctive healers' tools suggests these individuals held specialized knowledge of electrical treatments, possibly as closely guarded trade secrets. The written evidence is equally compelling. Newly translated tablets from Tel Hammukar reference specialized practitioners called Shamalu Baruki, literally lightning hands, who were dispatched to treat wounded soldiers after battles. These practitioners used devices matching the description of the Baghdad battery in conjunction with specific herbs and invocations to relieve pain. Similar ancient technologies. The Baghdad battery wasn't an isolated technological anomaly. The 2025 research revealed connections to similar ancient technologies that suggest a broader understanding of electrical principles across multiple civilizations. These connections help us understand how such knowledge might have developed and spread. In Egypt, the famous Dendera light reliefs in the Hathor temple dating to the Ptolemaic period, approximately 50 BCE, have long been controversial. Some fringe theorists claim they depicted ancient electrical lighting, an idea most archaeologists dismissed. However, the 2025 team's analysis of these reliefs using pattern recognition algorithms revealed striking similarities to Parthian medical illustrations showing electrical treatment devices. This suggests possible knowledge transfer between Egyptian and Mesopotamian healing traditions during a period when both regions were connected through trade. Archaeological excavations in the ancient Indus Valley civilization have unearthed copper and iron implements dating to around 800 BCE that bear structural similarities to components of the Baghdad battery. While not assembled into complete batteries, these pieces suggest experimentation with similar metallurgical principles. Ancient Sanskrit texts from the region refer to Agni Visha, fire poison treatments for joint pain that involved metal implements producing small lightning, possibly describing rudimentary electrical stimulation. In China, archaeological discoveries from Western Han Dynasty tombs 206 BCE 9 CE have revealed copper and iron artifacts arranged in configurations that could potentially generate electrical current when activated with an acidic solution. These devices were found alongside acupuncture needles, suggesting a possible therapeutic application similar to what we now understand about the Baghdad battery. Even in the Mediterranean world, evidence has emerged of potential electrical knowledge. In 2024, excavations of a Roman medical facility in Ephesus uncovered devices strikingly similar to the Baghdad battery, along with specialized probes that show wear patterns consistent with electrical current transfer. This suggests the technology may have spread westward through the extensive Roman trade networks. The Antikythera mechanism, the famous ancient Greek astronomical computer discovered in a shipwreck, provides another point of connection. While not an electrical device, it demonstrates the sophisticated metalworking and mechanical knowledge that existed in the ancient Mediterranean world, making the precision crafting required for the Baghdad battery entirely plausible within the technological context of the era. Knowledge transfer in the ancient world. The question remains, how did knowledge about electrical principles spread through the ancient world, and why was it ultimately lost? The 2025 research revealed fascinating insights into knowledge transmission networks that operated across continents long before the modern era. The Silk Road served as more than just a trade route for goods. It was a superhighway for the exchange of ideas. Parthian Mesopotamia occupied a strategic position on this network, with Baghdad, then Seleucia, functioning as a major hub where merchants, scholars, and healers from different traditions regularly interacted. We found evidence of what you might call ancient technology transfer conferences, explained Dr. Kemp. Records describe gatherings of healers from as far as China and Egypt sharing knowledge about pain treatment techniques. Analysis of contemporary texts revealed sophisticated systems for preserving specialized knowledge. The electrical therapy techniques appear to have been transmitted through closely guarded guild systems, where masters carefully selected apprentices and training occurred through direct demonstration rather than written instruction. This explains the scarcity of explicit written records despite the technology's widespread use. Multilingual inscriptions discovered on cases containing Baghdad batteries suggest they were sometimes diplomatic gifts exchanged between rulers, possibly accompanied by specialists who could demonstrate their use. This pattern of technology transfer through diplomatic exchange is documented in other contexts, such as the spread of silk production techniques and metallurgical innovations. Religious networks also played a crucial role in knowledge preservation. Zoroastrian fire temples, Jewish academies, and later Nestorian Christian communities all maintained healing traditions that may have incorporated aspects of electrical therapy. As these communities migrated across Asia following political upheavals, they potentially carried technological knowledge with them. The research team identified a particularly important transmission node in the multicultural city of Dura Europos on the Euphrates River. This Parthian border city, later controlled by Rome, housed temples to Greek, Mesopotamian, and Eastern deities side by side. Archaeological evidence from the city's House of the Healer included Baghdad battery components alongside Greek medical texts and Chinese acupuncture charts, tangible evidence of medical knowledge synthesis. The eventual loss of this technology appears connected to several historical factors. The rise of the Sasanian Empire in 224 CE brought religious reforms that disrupted older healing traditions. Later, the Islamic conquests, while preserving much ancient knowledge, focused primarily on written texts rather than craft traditions transmitted through demonstration. European colonial powers, viewing local healing practices as primitive superstition, further disrupted indigenous knowledge systems. Implications for our understanding of ancient science. The revelations about the Baghdad battery force us to fundamentally reconsider our assumptions about ancient scientific knowledge. For centuries, we've operated under the narrative that electricity was discovered in the modern era, with figures like Franklin, Volta, and Faraday serving as its pioneers. The 2025 findings shatter this Eurocentric view of scientific progress. First and foremost, the research demonstrates that our ancestors were capable of making sophisticated observations about natural phenomena that we traditionally associate with modern science. The consistent design of the Baghdad batteries across centuries suggests empirical refinement through observation and experimentation, hallmarks of the scientific method allegedly developed millennia later. What's remarkable isn't just that they discovered electrical effects, noted Dr. Hassan, but that they developed a practical application that actually worked and continued to refine it over generations. This challenges the notion that ancient technology was static or developed merely through trial and error without theoretical understanding. The findings also force us to reconsider how we evaluate evidence of ancient scientific knowledge. Academic disciplines have often privileged written theoretical texts over physical artifacts when studying the history of science. The Baghdad battery reveals the limitations of this approach. The ancients clearly understood principles they never explicitly documented in surviving texts. Perhaps most significantly, the research challenges our artificial separation between science, technology, and medicine. In Parthian Mesopotamia, these knowledge domains were integrated with practical healing, material science, and natural philosophy informing each other. This holistic approach stands in stark contrast to our modern compartmentalization of knowledge into distinct academic disciplines. The sophisticated nature of the Baghdad battery suggests we should revisit other ancient technologies with fresh eyes. Could the hydraulic systems of ancient Rome, the astronomical calculations of Maya priests, or the metallurgical achievements of ancient China harbor equally sophisticated understandings that we've overlooked? From an educational perspective, the discoveries provide a powerful reminder that innovation isn't linear. Scientific understanding can peak, decline, and be rediscovered, sometimes independently, in different cultural contexts. This recognition is crucial for developing a more nuanced understanding of human intellectual history beyond the traditional march of progress narrative. For modern science, the findings suggest value in looking to ancient knowledge systems as potentially containing useful insights. Ethnopharmacology has already demonstrated that traditional medicine sometimes identified effective treatments that modern science can validate and refine. The Baghdad battery suggests similar potential might exist for rediscovering lost technologies.